Good evening, everybody. We have a special meeting of the City Council of the City of Cape May, New Jersey. We are here in the Cape May City Hall Auditorium. Today is Tuesday, December 20th, 2022. The time is now 4:30. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
This way.
Oh, thank you. The flag's this way.
Oh, flag's that way. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I know.
Under the Open Public Meetings Law, notice of this meeting was sent to the Cape May County Herald and the Press of Atlantic City, and a copy of the agenda was delivered to each member of City Council and posted on the Cape May City website and Cape May City Hall Bulletin Board. Notice is hereby provided that Cape May City Council meetings are audio recorded and video streamed live. Live video streams are posted to the Cape May City website. The City of Cape May is not responsible if audio recording or live video streaming of a meeting is unavailable. Roll call. Councilmember Baldwin?
Here?
Councilmember Meyer is absent. Mayor Mullick?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Here?
Councilmember Yeager?
Here.
City Solicitor Gillen Schwartz?
Here.
City Manager Vole?
Here.
And Deputy City Manager Belasco. For resolution, we have 288-12-2022, a resolution providing for a meeting not open to the public in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-12, an update on the Heron litigation, and an update on the COA matter.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion. Second?
Roll call.
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes?
Councilmember Meyer is absent. Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes?
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes. Anyone here from the public wishing to speak on this? Seeing none, we can close public comment. Motion to go into executive session. Thank you. Closed session.
So,
Yeah. Hey, Vince.
Can that lawyer talk any slower?
let me tell you about all of my lawyers talk slow.
Oh my God.
They talk slowly, and I think it's a class.
I'm like, can you get moving here? We want to get to a question here. And you're
No, you take that class in law school.
oh my gosh.
Yet they bill by the hour. You gotta go slow. I swear to God. And you know, sometimes my accountant's the same way. It's not right. Over the dog. All right.
Oh. Oh, I just realized.
If we can find the screen.
I gave Vince Orlando pictures that Carol gave me
Yeah.
the rainstorm on Friday, where it shows her
You
property
know, it
still
would be
flooded.
great if you could put
Mayor.
a curb cut
You want me to slide that out or no?
that could water drain right into the street.
Are you doing the projection or you want to do the TV?
But you know, he hasn't done the sidewalk yet.
We could put
So
it right
that's
up on
what
the
I'm
wall,
saying.
shut the lights
We could
down.
probably do that, because he hadn't done the curb with the sidewalk there, and put that one piece out.
Zach, we could,
The resolution, we're gonna keep telling her.
They're gonna come down and haunt, back and haunt you.
Right, it can be, but his thing is. I can move, it's all wheels. I know it's a job. It won't come back.
Well, he has a year. They get a year warranty on the house, and the neighbor on the other side of it went back to him about water issues. So you put that back in. You don't think we're gonna tell those new people that they go back and get them? Yeah, you gotta tell him that we're on to him. I mean, you know that. We know about, she knows about the ordinance, and the other neighbor, and we also know Joe and Jackie went back with him about the water issue underneath their house. So, it's going to be, that they, because Joe and Jackie knew they had so many months that they could come out and, that he would have
apologize while we get the technical stuff straightened out here. Just give us a couple minutes. Thank you, everybody. Okay, sorry about that, folks. So hopefully we get this figured out for the presentation. In the meantime, I do want to go to our engineer next, but first I do want to read. Yeah, let's close our special meeting we're coming from. I apologize. City Clerk?
This is just a motion to close the special meeting.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Okay, we can close the special meeting, and I'll open up our regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Cape May, New Jersey. We are here in the Cape May City Hall Auditorium. It is Tuesday, December 20th. The time is now 6:15. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and the flag is over this way. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under the Open Public Meetings Law, notice of this meeting was sent to the Cape May County Herald and the Press of Atlantic City, and a copy of the agenda was delivered to each member of City Council and posted on the Cape May City website and Cape May City Hall Bulletin Board. Notice is hereby provided that Cape May City Council meetings are audio recorded and video streamed live. Live video streams are posted to the Cape May City website. The City of Cape May is not responsible if audio recording or live video streaming of a meeting is unavailable. Roll call. Councilmember Baldwin.
Here.
Councilmember Myers absent. Mayor Mullick.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan.
Here?
Councilmember Yeager.
Here.
City Solicitor Gillen Schwartz.
Here.
City Manager Vole.
Here.
And Deputy City Manager Belasco.
Here.
I'd like to start off the evening with a proclamation in recognition of one of our fellow council members who will sadly not be joining us for the next term, but I want to say thank you, Stacy Sheehan, so much for all of your efforts. And the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas Stacy Sheehan served Cape May City as a council member since 2019 and deputy mayor since 2021. And whereas Mrs. Sheehan served as a council liaison to the Municipal Buildings and Grounds Committee, the Pet Advisory Committee, the Municipal Taxation and Revenue Committee, the Seawall and Promenade and Parking Committees. And whereas Mrs. Sheehan served as a member of the Planning Board, and whereas Ms. Sheehan assisted many city residents in receiving the COVID-19 vaccines when they first became available, and frankly, a lot of people needed help signing up. And whereas Ms. Sheehan brought back the Blessing of the Waters ceremony in 2022. Now therefore, I, Zachary Mullick, Mayor of the City of Cape May, do hereby recognize Stacy Sheehan for her many years of service and dedication to the City of Cape May. Thank you very much, Stacy. And just real quickly, we all know this is a tough job to be a city council member and the mayor in the City of Cape May. And Stacy, no matter what, I never doubted for a second her loyalty and representing the citizens of Cape May no matter what. And Stacy, you were just a total asset to the city, and thank you. Thank you. Next year's Christmas card. Okay. Back to the theater here. Actually, Lou, would you mind turning the lights down? This is pretty nice, actually. Joining us this evening is an update from on the Promenade Arches with the Fun for Cape May. So if you would join us up here, Curtis, thank you very much for being here. Jim, I see. Come on up or say hello. Okay. And John, where's John? Come on up, John. Bill, thank you, Bill.
I got one.
So first off, John, I want to thank you, and I think most people know, but you did this, you took this on pro bono, no cost to the city. You jumped right in and did a lot of great work on behalf of the city. So I just want to thank you, and take it away.
Well, you're welcome. So this presentation will be very short, but this is in essence a repeat of a presentation that we made on April 5th at that board meeting. And what we were asked to do is take a look at what we might do with reconstructing the promenade arches that were there at the turn of the 20th century. So this is a photograph that's taken looking east in the block that were the first phase of the arches will be built. So you can see that this is Decatur right here. Let's see if I can make this work. Yeah, this is Decatur right here. So what you're seeing in the background here is the old Lafayette Hotel by Stephen Decatur Button. And from this, you can start to see that there was a whole series of them that stretched from Windsor essentially almost to Pittsburgh. So this is looking further east, walking up further. And because at the time there was still the electric railroad, there was, in fact, a different set of widths because the boardwalk width changed as it went from east to west across the beach. This was a really important photo. So what we did to try and replicate as closely as possible I'll call it the original arches. This photograph was really important because from the scale of this man, we were able to now tell through extrapolation pretty much exactly what the heights of these were. And of course, as I said, the widths varied. So the height of what we ended up designing is almost identical to this, just under 17 feet tall. And you can see that further east, of course, the Admiral Hotel there is on the left. This ended up pretty much being the prototype for what we used because the width of the promenade for the first phase from, let's see, that would be Gurney to Decatur with Ocean in the middle, was this wide, roughly 25 feet wide. We can also see is that they extended on a pretty consistent rhythm, not exactly, but pretty consistent rhythm. And at the midway point between arch were these really beautiful little lampposts. So the intention would be, hopefully, to at some point remove the Cobra lights that are currently on Beach Avenue and be able to install these lampposts that would replicate these as closely as possible. Now, this was a really important hand-colored photograph that we found because what it shows is, again, you can see Stephen Decatur Button's Lafayette. So this is Gurney right here. I'm sorry, Decatur right here. From this photograph and a whole bunch of others, we were able to determine that the rhythm of these was just about 150 feet on center, which is also really appropriate in terms of their scale so that there's a spatial connection between each of them as opposed to them just being objects. There's now actually, I'll call it an implied space. This then, as you can see, there's Peter Shields on the left. This was the final prototype for the one that we used to design the arches as they currently stand and are intended to be constructed. So you can see then that this is the drawing that we produced. It's 16 feet, 7 inches tall, and roughly out to out, 25 feet wide. And then we took a look at how do we actually make that work in this first phase from Convention Hall basically to Primal, again, Gurney to Decatur. Oh, wait a minute, go back. So on the site plan, you can see there's an aerial photo that's showing Decatur, Ocean, and Gurney, Ocean, and Decatur. And so what you can see is starting right here next to that little pavilion, Convention Hall is right here. On every 150 feet is how we located them, and it fit pretty nicely. This one right here ends up being in almost exactly the same location as that very first photograph I showed you. The other thing that worked out with this that's really nice is Ocean being sort of the primary entry into the beach from up near Washington Street. One of them is framed really nicely in that view on an angle, not unlike what the Greeks used to do when they were not looking at things directly in elevation. And then just to blow up a little detail, this shows a little closer where exactly they would be located and how the benches could work and how the lampposts could actually work at the midpoint of each. One other thing I want to go back to is in this drawing, one of the things we didn't want to do is use a globe here. The lighting is going to be identical to this. So these are 8 fixtures on each side. The only difference being that we have technology now with LED lighting to significantly reduce the energy consumption of these. Low wattage, about 40 watts, about 23 to 2500 degrees Kelvin, so it's a very warm light. Not at all unlike and virtually identical to the lights currently on the Washington Street Mall. So in terms of the illumination level that you might detect from these, all you really need to do is go down to the mall and look at 8 of them, or 16 of them, if you will, in a string. And the strings that are across the mall now, each loop is more like 24. You can, 2/3 of those would be the number of lights every 150 feet. But there's one other piece. Instead of doing this globe, one of the ways that we're hoping we can identify who the donors were is, instead of a plaque being on the arch itself, would be to place in the pavement a metal disc, bronze or some metal material, that would in fact identify who the donor was, and there would be installed in the ones we designed instead a downlight inside this keystone, which with its photometrics could be casting a circle of light slightly larger than that plaque to illuminate that. So what that does is, instead of any night sky lighting, what it does is it takes that direct spotlight and highlights where the plaque would be. And then, of course, this is the from Gurney to Ocean, so you can see the detail. This is the center line of Ocean Street coming, and just off that is, again, just off center, would be the arch that you would see all the way from Washington Street. And then the last drawing here is just showing now from the remaining portion of Beach Avenue from Ocean down to Decatur, and of course, this is Primal right here. So that gives you a sense of what's intended.
Really cool.
That's it.
Thank you, John. Curtis, you are here to tell us how we're going to pay for it. But thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. And before you start, too, we haven't really recognized this, but Curtis has allowed the city to park in the Acme parking lot for the last year, and I just want to say thank you very much for that at no charge. So thank you. And then really, that's a huge help. As you all know, we're doing a lot of work out front here, and that's been a lifesaver, so thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, well, the Fund for Cape May started initially to help support Rotary Park, and we've donated about $475,000 of bandstands, light posts, benches, et cetera, to that park. Was just shy of $200,000 for Soldiers and Sailors Park. And, you know, the COVID stopped the fund's festivities for 2 years, and there was a lot of clamoring to reactivate them. And this restoration was really, I think, broached initially by Tom Carroll, who couldn't be here tonight. And we were excited that when the city was undertaking to redo and widen the promenade between Primal and Convention Hall, that there was a conversation that allowed this idea to germinate. We knew the city was on a tight time frame, and we did threw together a fundraiser in August, and were able to raise the $150,000 or so that was needed to do the first 6 arches. So that's those pledges are made and committed to, and Chris sent us, our city solicitor, agreement that our board accepted and will sign as a commitment to the city to honor those funds. And we're super excited about it. We think there's opportunity. We're excited to make sure we integrate, and maybe one of the corollary their efforts to redo and repave Beach Drive, and they've stepped up to say that they would help fund the light post between the arches at an appropriate design as part of their renovation of Beach Avenue. So we think this could become larger than just 6. We're planning to do an ice ball again this year on February 25th, and we'll be soliciting folks to come so we can talk them into sponsoring arches all up and down Beach Avenue if council wishes.
Great. Well, Curtis, thank you very much, and thank you for putting together that donor benefit right away, and very nice. Thank you.
So one other comment is when we were initially talking with Curtis about this, and he said, well, wait a minute, wouldn't we want to expand these further up and down, maybe 4 blocks east and 4 blocks west, let's say Windsor to Madison? We did a calculation, and it looks like the total would need to be about 26 arches in total.
So we've got some work to do, and, but maybe it's 2 or 3 phases.
Right.
What are the arches going to be made of?
So we originally,
Right, thank you. What are the arches going to be made of?
Originally, we were hoping that we could make them out of wood, but as we studied it and thought about it further, we realized that due to maintenance and durability issues, that they needed to be a composite material, just to reduce the need to replace them in a shorter period of time. So that was the decision.
Now, have they done any engineering studies on making sure, with the
Yes.
northeast winds and everything?
Yeah, and in fact, that was one of the more difficult challenges. What's underneath, so to fully answer your question, the composite is essentially an envelope around a steel structure. And the difficulty that we found was because of the rock structure underneath the promenade differs in almost every location. In each place, we needed to do some borings to find out what the supporting mechanism of the bedrock was, so that the steel will be anchored directly to the bedrock. So that will be, in and of itself, the stability against lateral forces, particularly wind, because these all got knocked down in, we believe, the hurricane of 1944. We've found some photographs that found them knocked over. So the envelope is simply then affixed to the steel frame, which Mr. Barnes here can probably talk about more of the details of that.
So basically, if you're looking up at the elevation, underneath the vertical columns, you can see the 3-foot diameter concrete footing, typical. There's an additional couple pages provided by Czar Engineering that shows the rebar that extends all the way to the bottom on the street side. And that was easy enough after discussing it with Mr. Czar. The footing on that side is actually oversized because on the opposite side, we were going to have those potential issues of the granite structure underneath the promenade. So on that side, it was bored in about 18 inches, epoxied in place, and still the correct, support structure. And he's actually signed off on it twice already, before and after. The footings are actually installed in place already underneath, and they're within a discrepancy of 1/4 of an inch over the 25 feet.
That's great.
Now,
Okay.
you were saying about removing the street lights. My concern is safety on Beach Drive with the lighting that when people get out of their cars, that they're seen and they're not, hit by cars. So I guess a little concern about removing the street lights on Beach Drive.
I can talk to that. We met with Mr. Church, who's the county engineer, and in discussing this project, and with the county administrator, Mr. Lair. And, they understand the code requirements for the safety along the Beach Avenue. And, that would be part of the process of working with them to design a light that will look harmonious with the arches, but that will also help light Beach Avenue in an appropriate way. There's also ways, their primary concern is the intersections of the perpendicular streets to the Beach Avenue. And, they're working on that, and there'll be more information, but it's a county street, and they're going to make sure that they're abiding by all the rules that would need to happen to safely illuminate that street.
Okay. Any other questions, council?
Would this be a appropriate time to talk about the agreement?
Would you, would you like to do that now? Like, that would be the fund for Cape May, or do you want to do that at the resolution? It's up
It's
to
at
you.
your pleasure. I mean, we reviewed it.
Okay, well, let's talk about it then.
Okay.
Any- So, just for the public, we have a agreement on the table that was referenced under resolution, what was it, 297? 297.
Would you like me to just outline the agreement
Please,
terms?
if you would.
So, consistent with the presentation, the proposal is that the Fund for Cape May is going to create 6 arches for the area between Gurney and Decatur, as shown in that presentation. And essentially, the Fund for Cape May is going to fund everything above ground. The city is going to essentially lay the foundation for these to be installed. And the city has essentially already teed up its obligations on this. And once they are completed, there'll be an inspection process by the city. They'll go through the permitting process. And then at the end of this, when the Fund for Cape May indicates to the city that it's done, the city will be able to inspect, confirm that it meets what's proposed. And then once they're accepted, the Fund for Cape May is going to sign over warranties for the work. And then from then on, the city will then be responsible for maintaining and taking care of the arches, but after they're constructed and pursuant to the plans and inspected.
So they'll still be pulling all permits like would be required?
Correct.
Okay. And what about the pay-to-play? Because it sounds like in the agreement that they're hiring the people, so therefore there wouldn't be no pay-to-play. And I didn't know if that's something that should be done.
They're proposing to the city that they're going to construct basically ornamental lights to be installed on public property. We're not involved in the bidding process or anything like that. They've offered to take that on and essentially drop these off for placement on
So,
public
but
property.
are the bills going to be coming to the city?
No,
So, because that's different, because the bills for the other 2 projects came through the city.
the arches,
Like the Sailor Soldiers came through the city, and then it was, I think you gave the check to the city for that.
Rotary Park, we paid directly to all the things that we bought, the lights, the benches, the bandstand, and we installed them after the city finished their part of the project. With Soldiers and Sailors, we made a donation to the city of $100,000, and then we bought the remaining pieces ourselves, as we did with Rotary. And it was, the issue there was, so much was involved in the contractor's scope. Namely, it was about the curbing. So we wanted to help pay for the enhanced granite to match what was at that Columbia Avenue area, and that was really not something we could take out from the bid. So
And it was more than 100,000, probably.
we paid that money to the city as a contribution, but for the rest of the stuff, it didn't go through the city's books. The benches and the light post and the flagpole went through the fund. In this instance, the fund has hired Jim Barnes, and he's working for us, and will do the supervision of the installation, and we'll be paying directly for that. It won't go through the city.
and subject, of course, to the city's input, because that's what we're here to talk about and make sure that what they're proposing is what council wants to see on the promenade.
Great. Okay, any other questions? Well, thank you all very much. And Jim, I didn't introduce you, but as a local contractor, we're just thrilled to have a local contractor on the job, you know, and I
Thank
know are you on the zoning board or
I'm
something?
on zoning and planning and chair of West Cape May.
So we know your heart's in the community, so we
Absolutely.
thank you. Curtis, thank you so much. I mean, I think this is going to be really, really neat, so thank you.
Thank you for leading the charge and having the vision. It's been great working
Thank
with
you.
everybody.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, council.
John, again, thank you so much for your hard work. Okay. Next up, we have, and I'm sorry about the technical difficulties there, but good improvisation over there.
Mayor, we do have a couple additions to add to the
Oh,
agenda
okay.
as well, if we want to just do that really quick. And I think we're removing something as well.
Come on up, Vince.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have, I don't know, if they have people have questioning the resolution, can they stay? because the resolution's going to come up. We'll have public comment.
Would you want to bring this resolution up now?
Oh, we could, but they're leaving. We want to get them.
Would you? Okay. Okay, what are the additions to the agenda?
So we have ordinance 489-2022, an ordinance amending section 7-23 regarding loading zones on Jackson Street in the city of Cape May, as well as the Washington Street Mall merchants proposed 2023 budget.
Stacy, just quick, you're not putting that on,
No.
so that's not going to be added.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
That was, I know, I want to make sure, okay,
Okay.
I thought you weren't putting it on.
What were the other additions? I'm sorry.
I believe just the Washington Street Mall merchants 2023 budget proposal.
Okay.
And the bill payment one was changed. So are we adding that?
Well, you have the change to the bill, so I don't know that we need to add that to the agenda.
Okay,
Do you want to vote on that separately or not?
the bill?
Yeah, otherwise we don't need to add it. is what-
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Do I have a
And then
motion
I
to?
believe we are also removing ordinance 487-2022, an ordinance to update the uniform salary and classification plan for the Department of Personnel positions in the city of Cape May.
What was the resolution number you're adding? I'm sorry, just for my notes.
We're not adding a resolution. We were just adding the Washington Street Mall merchants 2023 budget
Oh,
proposal.
okay, it's not a resolution. Okay, sorry.
Do I have a motion to add those?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Oh, second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan,
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager,
Yes.
Mayor Mullick.
Yes. Okay, before we get to, just so I don't delay anyone else, before we get to the engineer's report, let's go right to, council, if this is okay, I'd like to go right to Resolution 297-12-2022. This is the Arches Resolution. Do I have a motion on that resolution?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions or comments from council?
No, I-
We're opening this up for public
Yeah,
comment, right?
anyone from council?
I just want to thank everybody involved because I really am excited about this project to be completed. Thank you to the fund, and looking forward to the ice ball.
Right.
Okay, I just want to make a comment. I was really disappointed that this didn't go through the proper channels. When the first presentation was done, there was a lot of questions on the cost and when it was going to come through, and they were all said, we're going to get another presentation, don't worry about it. And all of a sudden, I kept saying, well, you know, Facebook is saying this is already a done deal, and I was assured at that meeting that it wasn't a done deal, and that we never brought it back to council, and all of a sudden, things were being done. You know, there was other expenses that occurred, you know, such as the conduit, which was part of the widening of the boardwalk, but also, it was about $26,000 for Anzalino for electrical conduit and installation and design. One of the things that I was a little disappointed with the resolution is that it talks about in 2019 that the expansion preliminary cost estimate, it was just an estimate, didn't go out to bid, was $367,000. Well, in 2019, we didn't decide to do it. So the expansion of the boardwalk promenade, I don't think has anything to do with the arches. I think there should be totally separate. And by saying now, oh, well, it was $367,000 was the estimate, but the bid only came in at 103. Well, there's a reason why we didn't do the project at $367,000, because we weren't going to spend that amount of money. So just because the bid comes in at 103 doesn't mean we had that amount of money to spend on a project. It goes by what is bid and what we accept as a council. I mean, this statement that's put in here is like saying, well, you know, they were going to build the public safety building at $20 million, but we only built a firehouse at $5 million. Therefore, we have all this money extra to spend. That's not how you do a project or you budget for a project. I just think we should have had more options for the public to weigh in on this project. It seems like it was already a done deal even before it came to council. When we had our first presentation, it was already being said in Facebook and around that, oh, it's already a done deal, and obviously, looking back on it, it probably was. So I'm a little disappointed on how the process was taken through this with the arches.
Okay, we're going to open it up for public comment. We're going out of order here, but anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this resolution only, please come to the microphone, state your name and address.
Bill Seeger, Vermont Avenue. I have a couple of things to comment regarding this. For starters, the comment you just made, Stacy, was timely with me. This resolution is crafted like a sales proposal, like you're trying to sell the concept to somebody. I don't know who, probably the public, I guess, where you're building a case where, well, this project was going to cost this much, but it only cost this little, so we have this money left over to do this other thing now. I don't think you need all the verbiage that's in this resolution to get to the point of where you don't say anything. This is the resolution authorizing an agreement between the City of Cape May and the Fund for Cape May for 6 promenade arches. The only place in this document that it refers to that title is on the 3rd page on item 3, and that's all contained within Exhibit A, which is not even contained with this document. At least online it isn't. I'm sure there's an Exhibit A out there somewhere, and I should have looked into this earlier and gone to the city clerk. I'm sorry I didn't. But the way this whole thing is crafted, it's not about the promenade. It's about trying to justify the money for the arches, not the arches themselves, the way I read it. Now, specific questions. The area that this is going on to of the promenade, what's the cost of the changes to the existing promenade that the city will incur?
At this point?
Yeah, it says you have to widen it or do something to the existing promenade, which was just resurfaced, I believe.
Right.
You're gonna have to do something to it. There's a cost associated with that the city bears.
Right.
How much is that?
Well, the widening cost $103,000, which I think it absolutely is okay to mention the fact that the estimate was $367,000, and we did it for 103, but we disagree on that, but that's
Yeah,
fine.
because it never went out to bid. It was just an estimate.
So
All I'm saying is, you got it done for 25% of the cost it was.
okay, but the widening is already done or is yet to be done?
I can answer this question, okay? The widening was already going to be done independent of the arches.
Is it already done?
The
Yes.
promenade widening is done.
It's done.
And then over the summer, there was the sealant put on that would make it cooler so people could walk
Right,
on it.
I remember that.
It's been done for a while.
Okay,
So
so
the
there's
whole-
no
let me
additional
let me answer your question. So the promenade was already done.
Okay,
There was a
so
change.
far, so you answered my right question.
No, I'm trying to answer your question about
No,
what
you're
is the
not.
cost.
How
I
much
have
has been
that-
spent so far?
Can you let me answer your question? There was a change order authorized July 19th, 2022, on the consent agenda for that conduit. That was $19,000 change order. And then last meeting, there was a discussion about these footings. And that's the cost. That was done in public. There's a
I'm
resolution.
not saying,
Well, Chris, I just want to make a clarification here. Anzalone.
isn't this my time to ask questions? I got a lot of people jumping in here.
But I'm just
trying
going
to
to give you the
answer
pricing, though. For Anzalone, he's saying it was only 19,000. It was actually 10,900 and 16,000 we paid to them for a total of 27,000 to Anzalone for the electrical.
Okay.
So that change order, I think, is in addition to these other
Well,
expenses.
that was one of the things that I was getting to, but yeah, I was trying to answer Mr. Seeger's question about what have we spent? Well, this is the stuff that's been done in public. I was just trying to answer that.
Okay, let me
And just
call a little
to
time out
reiterate
here.
that
Little
This
time
has all
out.
been done in public. I just want to make sure
I'm not
that.
suggesting it wasn't.
Okay, but there seems to be this discussion like, this number and this number. All of these were done through resolution and in public. I just want to make
Okay,
sure that's clear.
I'm sure they were. But having called that time out, let me just reframe it if for no one else other than myself. So far on that area of the promenade, am I to understand that $103,900 has been spent? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we got 103,900 out of pocket. Now, how much additional is going to have to be spent to accommodate the,
44,000, just under 44,000, but you can round to it.
Okay.
For the foundations. Now, I'm going to add a caveat because I want to fully answer the question. Any lamppost up there would require a foundation. Now, there may not have required such a substantial foundation, admittedly, but any lamppost up there needs a foundation. So I just want to be clear about that.
But that wasn't in our plans at that time to change it. But there's also a cost of $27,000 for the electrical conduit.
okay.
And
Thank you.
another.
Thank you, Stacy.
And
So
if I just could add to it, and I'll let you speak as much as you want.
Thank you.
That conduit would feed any light. So we need light on the promenade. I hope everyone understands that. And that conduit had to be part of this project, no matter what. So I just want to make sure. you know
So that would have been in the original bid?
Yes.
No,
Yes.
it
That would
wasn't in
have
the original.
been supposedly covered,
From paving, but
It came in later. It wasn't in the original bid.
it wasn't in the original 367,000?
no.
No.
Okay, so it's additional above,
Okay,
No.
let me explain this. You have electricity and you have asphalt, okay?
and air.
Okay, so we got, the quote for 367 was to do the widening and lay down the asphalt. We did exactly that quote for 103, okay? It's 103,000. Electric had to be fed to whatever you put up there to light the promenade, which you have to do. You can't just have a completely dark promenade. So yes, we did that as a separate issue to run electric to whatever we were going to put up there. So all I'm saying is we would have to run that electric no matter what.
Okay. And what's the 44,000 for?
The foundations.
Foundations,
For the arches.
All right. Are there any other city-incurred expenses?
We did,
Minor engineering and no architectural because we had that done pro bono, but
Okay, so there's no other city-incurred expenses?
we had the cool sealant put on for $21,000.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. So it's not, you won't get hurt if you say, yes, there are no other additional expenses.
Look,
There are
it-
none. That's cool, that's great.
well, if you want to get technical, did we pay our DPW to roll down
No,
the?
no,
Yes,
I'm
we
not worried
did.
about that. If things related to the arches, that's what this resolution's about, and that's what I'm here to ask about. So the city has no additional costs regarding the arches?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean,
Not going to come back
to my
6 months from
knowledge,
now
you
and
know,
say,
yeah.
whoops, we have,
No, I mean,
you provided for the.
if
for
there's
the
a hurricane and we have
foundations?
to fix something, I don't know,
You've
but
provided for the foundations?
Yes.
You've provided for the lighting?
yes,
And it's all planned and budgeted?
Yes.
And there won't be any additional expenses?
correct.
And that's what the sales pitch resolution indicates in paragraph 5. It references, which I drafted, but it indicates that Resolution 19707-222, and then the meeting December 6th, when this was discussed and voted on in public about the work that's going to be done.
Okay.
So,
So the answer is yes. There will not be any additional expenses.
not,
All in favor? Agree? Okay. Put that behind us. The cost issue behind us. All right, some other issues. I haven't been in Cape May that long, but is there another example where the city has had a partnership with an outside firm where they essentially turn the whole project and all the responsibilities over to them?
I mean, Rotary Park, which people, I think, is regarded as a success, and this isn't a firm, this is a nonprofit.
Or any kind of organization. I'm just,
Well, any
I'm just curious. if
Let me
there's
put it
ever
this way.
been-
I think that any organization, nonprofit or other, that wants to offer a contribution to the city to improve public spaces, I think we'd be foolish not to consider that.
I would agree. I would agree. I'm just saying that The only ones I've ever been, and I don't have a lot of experience, granted, but this isn't just, okay, there's this project, and somebody did a great design, and now the city's taking over implementing the design, and they're going to give us the money to implement it. No, they're the ones who are actually implementing it. They're the ones talking to the county, not the city. We don't know what they said to the county. They're the ones who would be talking to all the vendors, not us.
We were involved
On
in the
behalf of the
conversations with the
city.
county.
Or on behalf
We-
of the project, let me put it that way.
They don't
Because
represent
the
the-
project is being managed by
Just to
someone
be
else.
clear, they don't represent the city, and they know that. They've never made a claim to the county that, so we're,
They just represent the project.
Yeah,
I should
right.
shift my frame from the city to the project, right? Okay. Just two general things, comments. By putting these 6 arches in that limited area at this time, to me, it almost looks like we're creating a golden block within Cape May. You got something to the east, which isn't really all that much, and you got something to the west, up to the cove, which isn't all that much. But between Convention Hall and the Primal Place is a new widened walkway. And I'm saying it's a great thing, but it's just a small part of the whole promenade where all the investment and the eggs have been put into that basket, and I'm afraid it's going to create a beautiful thing, but only a very limited beautiful thing, and it's going to stand out that way. But that's just me.
well, they're going to have a nice ball, and we're going to be soliciting donations again. Maybe you would want to attend that. But,
No,
no.
that has nothing to
but-
do with it.
No.
I won't go to that.
Okay, that's fine.
But I don't think this small portion, I don't think this project should be done in portion.
Okay.
You either do something right and you do the whole thing, or you don't do it.
This was, let me just say that this was probably the worst part of the promenade, even though, actually, it
Oh, it
was
was.
the
Yeah,
worst
I know.
part.
The rocks
I mean,
were
the
there and-
one trip and fall would have cost the city more than it cost us to repave that. Seriously, $103,000.
Absolutely.
So I think we had to get this done, and it is a test area, I mean, in all seriousness, if we got more donations, I'm sure the Fund for Cape May would do more, but it's a test area. You see if it works and move on from there.
Absolutely, that had to be repaved. I know that. Every time, especially anytime you went up there, when you have all the craft people set up, you'd be tiptoeing across rocks, not pavement.
Right.
So that was a necessity. This is a vanity project. This is something special. This is above and beyond. We wouldn't do this if the city had to pay for it. At least I wouldn't support it. I'll support it when somebody else pays for it like they are. That's fine. And that's why I'm kind of quizzing you on, is there any more expense?
No, and-
Because
and if
I
I-
think it's great that they're doing it.
Thank you. And if I could just add to that, if we were going to do our own lights, just metal, hopefully a little fancier than your, post and Cobra head, we'd be paying for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but having anyone do something just on such a limited basis right now, it's, I'm afraid, going to make that look like a golden block and the rest of our beachfront a little funky. One other comment, and I know it's a minor thing, but illuminated donor lights at every arch. I think it's going to look a little cheesy after a while, but that's just me. Thanks for your time.
I think that's going to be discussed. Yeah, I see Curtis shaking his head. Mr. Rouse?
Jules Rouse, 1010 New York Avenue. I don't really have any objections to the project as such, but I am concerned about the devil in the details. A couple of very minor things, and you may be able to answer these very easily. Were these plans done by an engineer, certified with 150-mile-an-hour wind resistance built into the project?
I did not, Vince Orlando for the record, I'm the city engineer. Butch Czar of Czar Engineering did the foundations, and the structural analysis. So I am going to say yes, they've been designed to meet whatever wind requirements required by
Required by who?
BOCA,
By Boca.
BOCA.
Building Code, the Uniform Construction Code, UCC.
Do I assume that this project is going to require the same permits as any other building project coming out of the city system, both for the construction of the materials, also permits for the electrical systems with all the proper inspections? I assume that's the case.
The answer to that was yes when I answered that earlier.
How are you going to deal with the insurance for the contractor versus the work being done on city-owned property?
Builder's risk, right? Yeah. Yeah, the city it's going to be installed on a benefit to public property, so it'll be covered under our builder's risk.
Will the builder have to have his own insurance as well?
Well, it's going to have to be a licensed and insured contractor, of course, and that's in the agreement.
Okay. During the construction, will there be a safety plan or a plan that will enable the public to either use the property or not the promenade, either use it or they'll be excluded from it?
So
I assume that's part
one
of
of the things that was very difficult when we did the promenade expansion, we closed off the promenade from Primal to the convention center, barricaded, barricades removed, public was traversing back and forth. I'm assuming the same effort will be made during the construction. They'll barricade it off, barricade the section where they're working. But I could tell you that it was a very difficult task, keeping the public off that area, even though it was off-season.
How long will the construction take? In other words, how long are you going to be able to shut down the promenade?
I don't know, I haven't
Yeah.
talked to the contractor about the construction element of it, but my guess is that all that work could be done within 45 days.
When would you anticipate the project starting?
I do not know, I have an answer to that.
Don't know, I don't have a project start date. The goal was before the spring, frankly.
The anticipation is it won't interfere with the tourist season? I mean,
No, absolutely not. I mean, tourist season as in, we're not doing this past May. Yeah, it's here now, right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yes, we can safely say this will be finished before May.
did I understand it correctly that the county is going to install the light posts in between the arches?
They've agreed to do that, but there's further discussion on that, obviously.
But that won't be a city obligation?
No.
On each of the arches, how are we going to handle the flag staffs that I understand you're making arrangements to be able to have?
That's part of it.
How about the audio system that's?
And if I could just comment on that too, because Atlantic City Electric is getting tough about putting flagpoles on their poles. They don't want us to do it anymore. So we've kind of pushed back on that to be, the poles were up this summer, but I think they're looking to come down on that a little bit.
But the intention is you're going to have
Our own space for it.
the speaker systems, which you now have on the beach side, are going to be transferred and put onto the arches?
No, not on the arches, but beach side.
So we're going to end up with another set of poles along the beach?
No. I think there are a couple existing old ones there already. Yeah.
Yeah, that are.
They're not, these speakers will not be on the arches, no.
Okay, so by installing the arches, we are still going to end up with a certain number of posts
There-
along the beach side of the promenade.
Maybe one, but there's not a lot of speakers on this section. And just if we're getting into the speakers, you know, we already bid out and have awarded for a second phase of the speakers, which is going to be actually hung on a lot of the buildings on the beachfront when they can be and all that.
Do you think there's any opportunity to add them on the arches so that we just eliminate another post, another?
I think we could look at it. We would look at it.
I think it
I
would
think
be-
that the arch is probably going to be a pretty, I hope, a beautiful piece that we might not want to add to, but it's something we will look at.
One of the things we did do, Mayor, is that when we did put the conduit in, we did put 3 conduits in,
Right.
one for an extra speaker wire,
Right.
if necessary.
We talk about 6 arches, then there was some conversation about 26. History showing there's 40. Has this council made a decision, either to consider or a firm decision to go to 26 or to
No.
40 or some other number?
No, and any additional will come before council.
Will come before the public,
At a council meeting in the public.
as Mr. Seeger said. One of the difficulties here is the public's information on the entire project has been somewhat limited.
I disagree with that, but okay.
So the entire construction project as it is going to be funded by a private organization. The city is not going to be a part of it at all, other than the normal inspections and permitting.
Yes. By a local contractor.
I hope it goes as well as it's been described. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this resolution? Seeing none, let's close public comment on this resolution. We'll come back to public comment. Open it up for our city engineer, Vince Orlando. Give us a report.
Thank you, Mayor, and Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy holidays. Report dated December 15th, 2022. The firehouse project is currently under construction, as you know. We have very limited involvement in some of the inspections currently. Once the site work gets started, I'm sure we'll have more opportunity for inspections. As discussed, the Welcome Center for Phase 1, the paving and lighting has been completed by the contractor. We're currently looking under Phase 2 to implement some landscaping, irrigation, signage, and fencing.
And I know Shane's working with you on that.
Yeah, Shane, I had met with Councilman Mayor out on site to talk about some of the things that he was concerned about, and we're in the process of putting a plan together and an estimate for that, finish that construction.
Councilman Meyer, if you're listening at home, he was under the weather today, so I hope you feel better, and thank you for working on this Phase 2 with Vince.
Lafayette Street Park is kind of in a holding pattern since the discussion with the land swap. We have been fooling around with some different conceptual ideas. At some point in time in the new year, first quarter, we'll present those ideas to council to get their feedback.
Can I just talk about the Lafayette Street park design?
Absolutely.
Because we had a committee at one time that put a lot of time and effort into this, the designs. And I wonder if they should be brought in on some of these ideas, only because there was a lot of issues that brought up just with the design of how the dog park was laid out. And I'm thinking we could maybe solve some of these problems before they came up again.
I'd be happy to. In fact, I think I had mentioned to the mayor that, a small committee may be advisable
Yeah.
because there are so many different ideas and thoughts about the park.
Well, these people had spent years, I'm talking years, on the designs and everything. And there was also some issues brought up about a fountain being put in the park. And it was supposed to be paid for open space. At this point, I think they were down to only paying a really small portion of it. And I think we have to realize that when you put a fountain in somewhere, there's a lot of extra costs that go into it on a yearly basis. I mean, I just saw, I think, a bill for $5,000 for Rotary Park fountain again. And there was one I think last year we winterized it wrong, and there was another bill for that. I mean, thousands of dollars that go into it, and the fact that you're putting it in a playground with kids and water, and also the fact, you know, what they had a couple times in the mall was bubbles being put into the fountains, and you have issues with that you're dealing with. So I'm just putting it out there that, I mean, we might want to go back and think about this whole fountain at a park. And, go ahead.
The conceptual plans that I've kind of started on eliminated the fountain.
Okay, but I just want to put there's reasons where I
It's-
think,
Again, you know, we're just kind of doing some charrettes and looking at some different ideas, just kind of just trying to get a spatial relationship of all the elements that were currently in the park, and trying to extract those elements and make it a little bit more logical.
Right.
So there's a lot of work to be done. Like I said, it's been kind of put on the back burner since the land swap, but I know council wants to take that up.
yeah. Because there's also, you know, I know there's a lot of people that voiced their real concern, which is before you came on, about not getting rid of the baseball field. And we were going to reposition that so that we could still have the baseball field there, which I think is important for a community to have a baseball field.
We're waiting for the DEP. So we have, you all know, we've hired attorneys to work on this, so. But as soon as we get word that this is close, we want to bring the committee in and then have a final design, because we have talked about it for years. But the fact is, we need the land free and clear. Once we know that the land's ready to be free and clear, we want to start building a park. So we definitely will bring people in as that comes. But I know everybody's frustrated. It's been close to, I think, over 10 years. So frankly, it's on the legal side right now. We're waiting
Hopefully,
for
the
that.
good news is that we will be building a park in 2023,
I hope so.
Okay.
Kiwanis Park.
Oh, God.
And real quick, one last comment that I want to make, because I had seen some plans, and can we not put the bathrooms as a focal point, you know, and make it off the side? Not that when you come down the street, you see the bathrooms.
I did
and then
get that
behind
feedback.
them, I just want to make sure that it was still noted. Thank you.
The Beach Avenue Promenade expansion has been discussed at length this evening. Our office has been involved in just being a sounding board for the arches. We haven't put any engineering time into it, has been indicated. We retained, or the city retained Butch Czar to do the foundations. I have looked at some of the lighting ideas. I spoke with Mr. Bashaw. I've been in touch with the county engineer to talk about what they envision for lighting up there and trying to work a good solution. And I think we're far from even starting to make any comments about how that's going to be lit and to what degree. As you know, the seawall design the engineers have been awarded to College Engineering. I know they made a presentation at the last meeting. I've been in numerous meetings with them. I think that the design that they've come up with, the alternatives, is an excellent alternative to the solution, and simplistic in form, and I think a good structural design for the beachfront. So
Can I add on that a little
go ahead.
bit? Or have you heard anything back from the Army Corps of Engineer, the transition between the one and the other? Has
I
there
saw
been
an
any
email
resolution?
today, in fact, saw an email today addressing that, of how that transition is going to occur. But I really didn't digest it. I saw it come in and I read it real quick.
Okay.
I think,
I-
I don't want to say anything publicly yet. We're hoping that the Army Corps likes our idea.
Right, exactly.
you know, which I think they do, to be blunt. I mean, the Army Corps project, which has been in the public and known for some years, is much more of a wall than ours is. Ours is, I think, a lot more attractive and just as,
Ours has a lot of function and form.
right.
Could you forward that email to me?
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, you to do it to all council, that make it easier.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
email to Mr. Belasco and Mr. Vole, and they'll send it out to everybody, since I may not have everybody's exact address. Pennsylvania Avenue has been awarded. It's been awarded to Lambert Construction. I've sent over the contracts to Lambert Construction. We've anticipate starting construction possibly around the middle of February, beginning of March. We don't want to open up the road too soon and have it open during inclement weather, even though that we have some water lines that we're replacing. So I've indicated to Mr. Lamberg that if we do start in March, that we need the project completed by May 1st. May 30th at the latest, a 90-day construction. Kiwanis Park is currently out to bid for the second time. We had 7 bidders pick up documents, and at our last bid date, we got no bids. So we re-advertised, we put it out to bid. I did contact all 7 bidders, of which 2 of the bidders have indicated they will be rebidding. The other 5 had no interest because of either construction obligations or location.
How long did it go out to bid for?
30 days.
Do you think, because I noticed with the other projects, we're only getting maybe one person bidding on them or no bids. We've had a couple where we have no bids. Do you think we have to look at our strategy on where we're advertising, that maybe we're not getting the right audience that's looking for these? Because it seems like these aren't real in-depth projects. You would think we would be able to get more than a couple bids.
So this is the first bid that I've gotten no bids on. The roadway construction was bid, I think we had 3 bids. 5 people take out the bid documents, 3 people bid, and the bidding was very close.
Yeah.
This
But we did the water transmission line. I know there was, I think we only had 1 bid. Or no one bid at first. And then we had to lower it, and then, or it was too high or something like that. I just think that maybe we should look.
That was before Vince.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that maybe we should expand our audience on where we're advertising.
Well, I mean, there are ways to do it. We typically do it in a local paper. This go-around, Aaron and I made a conscious decision to advertise twice versus once. So we advertised 2 weeks ago, and we're advertising again on the 28th. Typically it only appears once in the paper. And given the fact that we didn't get any bids, I did contact some of the local contractors that do parks to indicate that we are out to bid. So you can bid on local trade documents. There are some companies that will take your bids. My only concern is then you have people bidding from different locations, North Jersey, Pennsylvania. Typically, I like typically working with local contractors. I think they have a little more skin in the game, they have a little bit more knowledge, and over my 40 years, probably have worked with them a couple of times.
Right, we're doing a park, right? So it's not.
It's not a big lift here.
Right, so I think if you go out and got Pennsylvania or a North Jersey person, I don't think it would be.
And if I may, when we place the bids online, it generates an automatic email that goes out to bidding services, to any bidders that may have signed up on our website, which if any bidders are listening, they can go sign up, and it automatically sends out a notification that that bid has been out. I know I'm signed up and I receive them, so I know that they're going out. So that casts a pretty wide net.
And I know at the Atlantic City Convention Center, I was giving out business cards to any of the park designers that were up there, so.
So I feel confident that we'll get some bids, and we will hopefully be in a position to award a contract.
Just a quick question on the Kiwanis Park. The scope on that does it still include some of that site work?
Includes all the site work.
It includes all the site work as well as the equipment. Okay, we'll see how things come back this time, and maybe
The
have
park
to.
elements are all the playground equipment, all the tables, relocation of the swings, the
But, yeah,
rubberized surface.
but not the architectural, or not the,
It does not include the
The
bathhouse,
bathrooms,
but
right.
it does include electric, water,
Going
and
to
sewer
it.
service.
I did, do you think that that would deter people from bidding it?
That's a small item.
Okay,
So we actually have electric, water, and sewer service to the new bathhouse or
Right.
new restrooms, and electric and water service to the irrigation, because we have limited irrigation, if you recall.
Right.
In some of the flower beds.
okay.
I'm confident that we'll have bids, because I've talked to a number of contractors at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Also, I met with Mr. Vole and Mr. Velasco on putting together a county open space application for funding for the Kiwanis Park, since we have a DCA grant of, I think, about $450,000 or $400,000 for the park. We do recognize that there's going to be a shortfall. I know that council was going to make up the difference. One of the things that we thought we would do is make an application to the County Open Space Fund to make up some of that shortfall. The only difference is that some of the elements would have to be revised to include their wayfinding signage and include their standards. So if you recall, the County Open Space Board developed a program for consistency with all parks that are funded by the county open space, so that they have the same signage, the same trash enclosures, the same benches, things of that nature. So that if in fact we do get some funding from the county, we may have to tweak the plans to include those elements. But I think the county does have a fair amount of money, and I think it would be advantageous for us to put the application in to go to look for that shortfall money for Kiwanis Park. The water transmission line, I still don't have a DEP permit. On this particular permit, because it's a transitionary waiver, don't require a 90-day clock as a CAFR permit, because it is a wetlands permit. Hopefully soon. And we're developing conceptual plans for the Franklin Street enhancement. We did receive a grant. Lou was from DCA too? There's a DCA grant to provide some conceptual enhancements to Franklin Street, which include paving, the walkways, street furniture, lighting, any type of enhancements such as landscaping, crosswalks, things of that nature. So we're in the midst of putting together a plan, and we'll be presenting that plan the first quarter to council for for discussion purposes.
Great. Any other questions, council? No? Vince, thank you. Nice work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Everybody have a great Christmas and holiday season.
You as well.
God bless everyone. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vince.
Okay.
Next, Mayor, we have the Washington Street Mall Merchants proposed 2023 budget.
I thought I saw Mrs. Claus out there somewhere.
Hi, folks. I'm Michelle Konopka. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So our proposed budget for 2023, our total is $74,560. Our revenue coming from assessments is $65,560. We have a $9,000 surplus, which is going to be used in 2023. For our administrative and professional expenses, we're at 7.38% with an amount of about $5,500. And that is our PO box, stationery, bank fees, stamps, insurance, bookkeeper, audit, and legal fees. Memberships for the MAC chambers, $1,000. That's about 1.34%. Mall enhancement projects, we've budgeted $13,000. That includes tree trimming, lighting on trees, and drip irrigation. Decor and maintenance, we've budgeted $35,000. That includes spring, summer, fall, and holiday decor in the planter boxes and baskets on Carpenter's Lane, Washington Street, Lyle Lane, and Liberty Way. Advertising and events, $11,800. That includes MAC, Vacation Time, The Herald, County Travel Guide. And on website and social media, $6,330. That includes domain and hosting, Instagram, Facebook. We have provision for uncollected assessments, $1,230. And then we have some miscellaneous in there, which brings us to 100% of our $560,000.
That's great. Any questions, council?
None.
No? The mall has looked wonderful, and we thank you. And really, this whole season, it looks great, and I think you budgeted for another good one, so thank you.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay,
Next, Mayor, we have ordinances for introduction. We have 488-2022, an ordinance amending Section 10 of the Cape May City Code regarding purchasing procedures to include a requirement to assure adequate security and control for software in use by the city of Cape May.
do I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on this?
I just want to make a comment. This was the one that has to do with protecting our infrastructure
Software.
from software from attacks. And I don't know, Chris, you want to make any more comments on that, or?
No, we just, you and I had discussed, Deputy Mayor, putting this in the purchasing section of the code as a heads up to the administration.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes?
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes?
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mellick?
Yes.
Next, we have an ordinance for second reading and consideration for adoption, ordinance 485-2022, an ordinance amending Section 525 of the City of Cape May Code to provide minimum stormwater management and grading requirements for development in the City of Cape May and regulation of nuisance-causing conditions.
Do I have a motion?
I make that motion.
I'll
Do we have
second.
a second? We have a public hearing on this ordinance. Is it appropriate to give an update at this point?
Yeah,
before-
but we can hear any public comments, of course, but I wanted to give council an update. Of course, 2 members of council on the planning board, so they know what the discussion was. But they made, this would be the second time that this went back to them, because you'll remember we discussed the concept of a threshold for this being applicable to development. And we came up with a few factors or a few items where this would be applicable. The planning board got a chance to review that and provided comments back. So I can go over those comments. They're limited, and I think they'll make sense to council. We can go one by one with them. So the concept that we discussed previously was that this stormwater management requirement will be applicable to additions to any existing structure or site improvements which increase the impervious coverage by more than 200 square feet, which is what we discussed last time. The planning board's recommendation was to change that to a percentage, 5% a lot area. The basis for that, I think, makes good sense, and that's on a bigger lot, 200 square feet is going to be less meaningful, and a smaller lot will be more meaningful. If you do it based on a percentage, it's going to be more equitable to different sized lot owners. The second comment was to add, one of the other applicability provisions is construction of any pool or accessory garage structure, and I think the planning board's recommendation was to add driveways to that as well. So again, change 200 square feet to 5%, and then add driveways as one of the items that would trigger this requirement. And then the last comment was to alter the view of the property when this requirement is triggered. Currently, in the ordinance, it talks about viewing the property as vacant. Now, what the planning board suggested to council is to view the property as vacant when you're doing a completely new development, single-family home. But for any other type of development, if it's an accessory structure or a pool or a driveway, you'd view, the applicant will be required to compensate for the change in drainage caused by the development. So if you're doing, for example, building a new structure, well, then you're going with vacant land conditions, and you should have to view the site as vacant and accommodate for the new structure. If you're doing just a driveway, well, you don't have to view the property as vacant at that time because it isn't, but you do have to account for, through this ordinance, the increase or the impervious surface resulting from the driveway, or be it a pool or accessory building. So it kind of hones in on the issue and what change you're making to stormwater management on the site.
And I just want to make a comment, when it came to the driveways, they wanted to make sure that they weren't being elevated to the point where they were causing the runoff to the neighbor. So that's why the driveways were added.
And
for
that kind of makes sense, sometimes people will decide to just, add a paved surface, and then that will create runoff issues. Well, this would, as part of doing that, you would then have to account for any new runoff caused by that driveway. But you wouldn't have to completely regrade your lot or something like that, which was, I think, one of the concerns expressed by the planning board. So those are the changes. I actually have a red line version of this, and if council wants to consider those changes, you can make a motion to incorporate them, and then what we would do is just have we do another publication, and then.
So this is a substantial change, is what you're saying?
yes.
Yes, okay. Yeah, I would think so as well.
I just want
Okay.
to make a comment that the planning board, there was a lot of really good discussion there.
I listened to that meeting.
It's nice having Craig there, the engineer, who is very educated in stormwater runoff.
Yep.
And he provided a lot of good feedback.
One of the things I'll add to this is, we didn't necessarily, procedurally, pursuant to the municipal land use law, we didn't have to send that back again, but I think it was a good idea because this is it'll be a change, and you're getting, I think, the most feedback and mileage out of the planning board to give that feedback and provide even non-master plan consistency comments. I think these just kind of make a better ordinance.
Right, and also when anything comes before the planning board, they'll have this knowledge too of how the drainage should be.
Sure. And
handled.
they'll be familiar with it from having had to go through it twice, so.
Mayor, may I just ask a question?
Please.
For Mr. Gillensworth, for anyone who's currently has an application coming before zoning, has already submitted and about to present, how would this ordinance be communicated
So-
to their representatives to ensure? Because, a lot of the work has probably been already completed and
Right.
may not include this.
So, and that's something that we touched on when this first was brought up, is what about people that submit in the interim? And this will have to go through second reading and then through the process for adoption and effectuating the ordinance. So if people submit applications, they won't necessarily get tagged by this process yet until it's effective. But what people need to know, I think it's important for developers and property owners to know, is that at the very end of this, there remains this property nuisance condition, so that if you're planning a development right now that is going to end up causing a problem, you could potentially be tagged under the nuisance provisions. And does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and that's where I was going. I think that needs to be publicly stated, so that there is not sort of the implication that if you are getting in under the wire, then it's not going to be applicable.
Right.
And I do think it's important for anyone who's coming before zoning, even whether it be next month or, according to the timing of this, needs to be aware. And it may be of benefit to them, their architects, their engineers, or their attorneys, to be aware that this is coming and it's either applicable upfront or will be applicable post, so.
Right, and that's a good point. And the other thing I would like to just highlight about that nuisance provision, I did listen to the planning board's discussion of it, and there was some concern about applicability of private nuisance conditions to this, and sending people through the process if they're tagged for a private or a public nuisance condition. The ordinance doesn't state that they have to go through that process. What it does is indicate that if they do go through that process, if they're tagged for a public nuisance condition and they go through that whole rigmarole, they will be deemed to have abated whatever nuisance existed, because that's tied to, stormwater problems. But if there's some other way to address the public nuisance, well, that'll go through code enforcement. But what this ordinance does is give people that are facing a violation a lifeline to say, look, here's a way to get out of this, address whatever stormwater concerns or issues are arising from your site, and here's a way to do it. But it's not just saying that you have to do that. There may be other ways to mitigate.
Well, and on the other side of the conversation is for homeowners who are experiencing the nuisance from stormwater runoff from an adjacent property, what the process should be for them to be able to go through, and I'm presuming that it's through the zoning office, to address and say, I believe that my property is being negatively impacted by this. What is the process going to be for them? I think that we need to be clear that there will be a process that someone in zoning construction or somewhere is going to be educated and versed in being able to manage if these need to be investigated. And
I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor, I actually do think that it will go through Craig, because it was supposed to be, the idea was that if this was to capture people that weren't going through the board, but to have them still have the same review that Craig would give in a planning or zoning.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great, because I know now when I know there's one issue that we're dealing with, it's going to go through Vince, it's not going through Craig.
This, I think, specifically calls out.
There's a fee associated with going to them.
The city engineer is defined as the engineer for the planning board, and the goal was to just make sure that everybody was getting, whoever that
same.
may be, the same board experience with reviewing drainage and stormwater.
That's great, thank you.
I think you've all heard that this will be coming back to us, but is there anyone that's here that was wishing to speak on this ordinance? Please, Martin.
Martin Van Walsum, 329 Congress Street. So my part of where my property is, the Cape Island Creek runs underground on the back of my property. It's one of the lower lying areas in Cape May. To improve the quality of our life when we redid our property, we volunteered to put in a stormwater management system. I've listened to the planning board hearings. I've listened to the discussion about it here. I think we're afraid of the costs involved with doing this, and the costs are extremely reasonable relative to the benefit that is being received, not only by us as the homeowner, but by our neighbors. We used to have ponding on our property, and we no longer do. My neighbors who have not yet undertaken a project have a very nice, very large bird bath right now from the storm that we had last week. It's great to see the birds flitting around in it, but at the same time, the ponding is an issue. I think that this is the right approach to take the vacant element out of it for now, test drive it for a while. But I think that as a city, we have to take the stormwater management very seriously. And if it costs $10,000 on a $500,000 project, it's not a lot of money. So I would encourage City Council to keep in touch with this and think about tightening it up even further in the future. Thanks.
Chris, just so I understand, his vacancy issue is what? Could you explain that?
Well, so the way that it was originally worded is, if you were doing 5% addition or putting an accessory garage or a pool, you would then have to account for the entire drainage on the site as if it was vacant.
Okay.
Martin, I was trying to think of your last name, I'm sorry. But what Martin is indicating is, I think a preference to look at it
whole.
vacant, and I'll indicate that this was based on another community that does take that just vacant
whole.
approach to everything.
Right.
So this is a step, we're kind of stepping into the shallow end before, jumping into the deep end.
Again, I want to make a comment on what council or the planning board had discussed. And it was like if somebody was putting in a garage, in a detached garage, they didn't feel that it was fair to say that the person had to do their entire property, had to do a drainage plan. If they're only doing a garage, say for $10,000, they didn't feel like it was worthwhile to force them to do a $10,000 drainage plan.
I do agree with that. I just finished renovating my garage. It's $100,000.
Yeah, I was trying to be.
I put swales in the backyard to be able and regraded the property to make sure that the water that comes off of the garage gets captured in these swales, which are very pretty, actually. I think it was $5,000.
Yeah. Well,
So-
and they would have to do that. If you're putting in a garage, you would have to do a drainage plan for the garage.
What I'm suggesting is that when I did my project and went to zoning, my house had to go to zoning for a variance, so I would have not had to be a part of this new law or new ordinance. Mr. Hurlis's comment at the time was that if more people were volunteering to put drainage systems in, we wouldn't have a stormwater management problem.
Yeah. And I,
Okay, we have to, at some point in time, address it as a city, particularly in the lower lying areas, to make sure that the water is being contained and disposed of in a proper way.
Definitely.
yeah, yeah, I mean, I've had some people approach me with, and what becomes an issue is new development by these builders. They come in, they're going to be in and out. So there is no real concern on what happens to the neighbors or the new property owners.
Right.
And that's where the issues sometimes get lost. I think when a person builds on their own lot and they're going to stay there, they want to make sure that the water's draining properly. It's sometimes when we get these builders that want to be in and out are not getting the proper drainage or don't even care about it. They're putting drain spouts directly to the neighbors, and they're having, all of a sudden the neighbors are
So
having
they'd
water
already
issues.
be getting captured because it is a vacant lot. So when they're building a house from scratch, they would have to account for the entire stormwater management system under the ordinance.
Under this ordinance.
Yeah, the new one, yeah, but they didn't have it before.
No, I'm saying if it's a vacant lot today and they're adding a structure like on Belvente, they have to account for
Right.
the stormwater for the entire structure.
As long as that was part of the, like, subdivision approval. That was kind of the problem,
Right.
is that for these, buying up a lot, demoing the building, building new, we didn't have, this was trying to fill in and capture those ones that were escaping that process.
Yeah, because the new development right now, some of them wouldn't fall under this. There's no need for the drainage plan.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Martin. Appreciate it. All right. Next on the agenda?
So,
We have
just,
to-
just to
Oh.
be clear, the changes that we discussed, did council already vote on that?
No,
No.
we didn't. We didn't.
So it would be essentially a motion to incorporate the planning board's comments in red line and then vote to introduce on first reading again, and then, it'll be republished and then come back before council.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I just want to make a comment that maybe this should wait and be done at the next meeting as an introduction, because we're changing some membership here. I mean, we can make the changes, but I don't know if we should make it a first reading.
It's, first reading is
The first reading would mean I get to vote, but when Maureen comes to the table, she will not be able to vote on this.
Well,
ordinance.
I'll say this, and this is kind of a global statement, but there is a school of thought that if an ordinance isn't passed at the end of the year, that like Congress, the legislative bill dies, with that legislative body. We do have 4 members that will be carrying over into the next term. So my suggestion would be, if you want to vote on this tonight, Deputy Mayor, you're free to vote on it. I would just probably indicate to Ms. McDade that for continuity purposes, that she abstained because she wasn't technically a part of the deliberation on this tonight. But then we still have enough, we have the same governing body
Okay.
majority to vote on it on second reading. It's kind of a technical thing, but for that reason, because we have 4 members carrying over, I don't see a problem with it.
Okay, so do I have a motion to amend
Make a motion.
based on the planning board suggestions? We have a motion. Do I have a second?
And second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes?
Deputy Mayor Sheehan,
Yes?
Councilmember Yeager,
Yes.
Mayor Mullick.
Yes. Do I have a motion to introduce as amended?
I'll introduce it as amended motion.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes?
Deputy Mayor Sheehan,
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager,
Yes.
Mayor Mullick.
Yes.
Next, Mayor, we have the public portion on resolutions only. Those wishing to publicly comment, please come up to the podium, give your full name and address, and speak directly into the microphone.
Do we have anyone this evening wishing to comment on the resolutions on this evening? Seeing none, we can close public comment.
And on the consent agenda, is there anything council would like to remove?
289, 293, 295, 296, and 297.
Okay.
Do we have to pull the bill for an update?
You received the updated bill list, so I
Okay,
don't
so
think
it's
we
fine.
need to pull
Okay,
it and amend it
Just
or
making
anything.
sure. Because I think in the past we had,
Anything else?
Yeah, can we remove 294 as well?
Okay.
Okay.
Is 296 on that as, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, you did. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. For minutes tonight, we have Cape May City Council regular meeting minutes dated September 20th, 2022. Cape May City Council work session meeting minutes dated October 4th, 2022. Cape May City Council regular meeting minutes dated October 18th, 2022. Cape May City Council work session meeting minutes dated November 1st, 2022. Cape May City Council regular meeting minutes dated November 15th, 2022. Cape May City special meeting minutes dated December 6th, 2022. Cape May City closed session meeting minutes dated December 6th, 2022. For reports tonight, we have the police incident report for the month of October 2022, the fire incident report for the month of November 2022, occupancy tax report for the month of November 2022, the occupancy tax report for the month of December 2022, the overtime report for the month of November 2022, and the beach stability analysis between October and June 2022. For resolutions tonight, we have 290-12-2022, a resolution authorizing award of contract for reconstruction of Pennsylvania Avenue Phase 5, Pittsburgh Avenue to Baltimore Avenue. 291-12-2022, a resolution authorizing change order number 1 to contract for a solar energy system at City Hall. 292-12-2022, a resolution for the cancellation of outstanding checks clearing account. We have 298-12-2022, a resolution authorizing submission of a strategic plan for the Cape May County Municipal Alliance Program, fiscal year 2024, Lower Cape May Municipal Alliance. 299-12-2022, a resolution authorizing submission of a strategic plan for the Cape May County Municipal Alliance Program Youth Leadership Grant. 300-12-2022, a resolution authorizing professional services agreement between the City of Cape May and Stephen Smolin, AIA Architectural Heritage Consultants, LLC, for update and dissemination of HPC design standards. 301-12-2022 is a resolution for release of performance and maintenance guarantees for 910 and 914 Page Street, Block 1090, lots 54 and 55. And 302-12-2022, resolution for the payment of bills.
Before I ask for a motion, I think we have one update here, Clerk. Under the minutes for the consent agenda, Cape May City special meetings dated December 6th. That's, second from the bottom there.
Yes, so,
Councilman Yeager just recognized that it marks him as absent, but he was there for that special meeting.
Yeah.
Should we pull that from the consent vote right now to update that?
I mean, that was just a minor typo, but if
just a
you
mi-
feel that
just
we
a
should.
typo.
The vote would incorporate that change.
Okay, is everyone okay,
I'm
understand that?
okay.
Okay, so strike absent from there. He was there and a very valued member of the discussion.
Absent, but
Yeah. Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second? Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan? Yes. Councilmember Yeager?
yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
Next, we have 289-12-2022, resolution authorizing the City of Cape May to apply for and accept a Neighborhood Preservation Program grant from the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs.
Do I have a motion?
motion.
Do I have a second?
Second?
The reason why I pulled this, I think it's important, with this fund, there are 9 small businesses that are being given assets through this resolution. And I thought we should mention who they are. It's the CCA,
I don't think that's correct.
right here, 9 small businesses. I got it from Mr. Velasco sent it to me.
They got that in 2020.
So we're not doing, so what's,
That's just where we came from.
so who are the ones that are getting it this year then?
I don't
Nobody.
think businesses get it this year.
No, that was just a COVID
Yeah.
era funding mechanism. The budget's in the back as to where the money is scheduled to go.
This 2020.
So so this budget's going to go to the AME Church and street design, that was it?
No, there's street design, renovations to Macedonia Baptist Church, and streetscape improvements, yes, for 125. This is for the 2023 budget.
Okay, well, it has, the 2022 budget includes restoration of the AME Church for 105. 22.
Yeah, we're passing 23.
Wrong year.
That's 2022, yeah.
Here we go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I got the right year now. Okay, so it's, you said it, can you mention that again?
Community development, basically placemaking within this general neighborhood, historic building rehabilitation and preservations, which is renovations to the Macedonia Baptist Church, and economic development, which would be implementation of the Lafayette/Franklin Street streetscape improvements, which is part of what Vince Orlando was talking about earlier this evening.
Okay. Thank you, now it makes a lot more sense, but I had the right year.
Okay. Any other questions on this one? Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan,
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager,
Yes.
Mayor Mellick.
Yes.
Next, we have 293-12-2022, resolution for the cancellation of outstanding checks, the payroll account.
Do I have a motion?
Make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So this is payroll accounts. So these are people that work for the city that have checks that were not cashed. And there's a good amount here, 2, 4, 6, 10, 15 of them, roughly 15. So I dug in, and I asked Neil, I said, are we going to be reissuing these people a check? And he goes, no, only if they ask. Well, I think it's something as a council we should do. We should be reaching out to these people that their check was never cashed. Maybe they didn't know they were entitled to certain money when they, maybe it's an insurance reimbursement or something. So I think it doesn't take much effort for council to reach out to our employees and say they have a check that's outstanding. Matter of fact, when I looked at this, I said, wow, $280.11. That sounds like what I get paid. Sure enough, one of our council members did not cash a check.
I hope,
So-
was it me?
It wasn't me, that's all I know.
I'm surprised in this day and age, not everything's direct deposit.
I still get a check.
Just, yeah.
I guarantee you I'm one of these.
But, yeah. So I think, as a council, we should make a motion that the people that have outstanding checks that they didn't cash, that are city employees, should be notified. I don't think it's a lot of effort to go and notify these people. Matter of fact, we could have probably avoided this whole resolution if they were notified ahead of time and just reissued the check.
Do we have policy in place that states this?
This is one of our comments on the management letter from the audit was that we should cancel outstanding checks that are a year old.
Yeah, I knew it had to
I
come
think
from
as part,
somewhere.
you're required to do that. Most financial fiduciary responsibilities are that you're required to.
Right.
But it doesn't preclude
Reaching
Right.
out.
And I was surprised that, because, they always say found money, that we don't put that into found money.
Because it's earmarked.
That's what I was told.
Yeah.
Well, so do you want to,
I'm gonna
do we
make
need to do these before the audit? But be.
Well, no, that you still have to get rid of these checks.
Yeah.
My thing is that we just make a motion
In-
that we contact these people that they have an outstanding check and to maybe reissue it to them.
Well, then they have till December 31st to, right? I mean, if, as part of the audit, we have to close this out.
Right, we have to close this out.
So it's either being paid out?
We're gonna,
or
we're
it's-
gonna do it when this, if this resolution passes, we're gonna cancel these checks, and then if an individual comes in or is contacted, whichever method
They'll be
is chosen.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so understandably then, we should pass this to
Right.
cancel these checks.
Exactly.
But we have a list here that we can contact folks and reissue a check.
Exactly.
Good, okay. 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, I'm getting,
February.
Christmas might be getting better.
Well, actually, some of these are just 1 year ago. It's
Yeah,
2021.
Yeah, summer one.
Oh,
but
2021, yeah.
21. Actually, they're all 2021.
February.
Yeah, they're all, yeah.
So it's just within the year.
Okay, so you will contact the
Yeah, and
CFO.
within a year, because we canceled the ones from 2020 last, or, yeah. We do this resolution every year.
Okay,
Right.
so we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes?
Deputy Mayor Sheehan,
Deputy Mayor.
Yes?
Councilmember Yeager,
Yes.
Mayor Malik.
Yes.
Okay. So we don't, I just wanted, we didn't have to rate any kind of motion?
Did she say you?
I understood,
Because I had made a motion, that's what I was wondering.
I understood the vote to incorporate the direction to make an attempt with every person on that list to claim payment before the end of the year, at which point it will be canceled if they don't claim it.
No, no.
No, not to the end.
These checks are automatically being canceled. We just made a motion to cancel them. They're going to have to reissue them another check.
Okay, but to give them a reasonable time to, like, claim the money, right? I mean, that was,
To be honest with you, I think they always have the right to claim the money, even after we say there's no check there.
okay.
Well, let's handle this. You will contact all the people that have outstanding checks.
Yes,
Perfect. Okay.
Next, we have 294-12-2022, resolution for transfers of appropriations, the 2022 budget.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Questions, comments on this?
Yes, I pulled this from the consent agenda. Two areas that I'm concerned about, streets and roads, salary and wages, and then streets and roads, other expenses, which totals $100,000. Looked into it a little bit more, found out that there were 2 new hires in this. And remembering back when we passed ordinance 422, 2021, when we were doing the budget last year, we added, prior to any increase in the total employee headcount or adding any new position within the administration, the city manager shall report to city council on the financial impact and administrative need of any proposed increase or additional positions. This provision will not apply to the filing of vacancies occurring in the administrative service. And I don't think that that was true, but, I don't recall us, adding 2 new people based on what we approved on the budget for Department of Public Works. So a little bit of clarification on that. And I just want to really kind of put it on the record. I know you emailed me back. I emailed you earlier, and I got an email back from Lou, so just want clarification.
Clarification on, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there were two new hires.
Yes. I'll circle back to you on that tomorrow, just to double check with Eric on this, because I thought we had the proper head count, and the 2 people hired was within our head count, replacing people. So I want to double check that.
Okay, but what we're doing is we're approving these line item transfers for this funding.
Correct. I'll look into that. I will.
Okay.
Were those positions might have been in the budget. Were they in the budget? Because I knew we added a couple positions in the
We
budget.
added a couple, but this is two new ones. And I think it might have, there was a couple of things with salaries and wages that were in here. It looked like it was definitely 2 new hires that were. Luke, can you shed any light on this? Were there 2 new hires?
Yeah, the explanation that we got along with the transfers was streets and roads, salary and wages, 2 additional full-time employees in the department that weren't included at the budget time.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just saying that, I don't like that practice. It goes against, our ordinance. I know we have to do it, but I just wanted to bring that to the attention.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan,
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager,
Yes.
Mayor Mullick.
Yes.
So we have 295-12-2022, resolution appointing interim chief financial officer for the city of Cape May.
Do I have a motion?
Make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Questions or comments on this?
I pulled this because I know we went out to advertise for a CFO, and that we were supposed to be, I guess, getting the resumes in. We got some resumes in. I was surprised when I received my packet that we were hiring
We're not.
an interim CFO, and I was never notified. I found out when the public found out. I also found out how much we were paying her by getting my packet. I think, in order to be transparent, we have to have better communication. To be honest with you, I think this should have been put on a closed session for us to discuss. We had a closed session before we came in tonight, and we could have had this on there to discuss this and then added it to the agenda. So I'm disappointed on the process, on how it went down.
This is an interim CFO to help with anything within the, we have a CFO that's leaving. So we got, I don't even want to say where from or who is willing to do this for $2,000 a month. I mean, equate that over a year, it's extremely low, just to help us until we find someone. Now, hopefully we don't even need this person because we will have gone through the process and hired a new CFO. But we have to plan if that doesn't occur.
I
So we
totally
have-
agree with you that you have to plan.
This is coming from the reality that we do have an outgoing CFO, and we're required by statute to have a CFO in place. That's a statutory requirement. We can be penalized if we don't. So this is to cover the period, and in fact, contemplates expressly that this person is going to serve on an interim basis as the temporary chief financial officer until the city is able to conduct an appropriate search for a qualified replacement and hire a qualified individual to serve in this capacity. So,
yeah.
and that person is required to acknowledge the temporary nature of this and the terms of this resolution as a condition of being employed on a part-time basis. So I think that was just to make sure that the city was covered in this position while this search continues for.
I don't disagree that we should have this. I am talking about the process, though. Why wasn't I notified about this? Why was it decided without a council? This position
You're
is a
deciding it
higher.
right now. It's a resolution that's right in front of you to hire someone.
Right, I found out when the public found out. There could have been a phone call, there could have been a closed session, that this is what we want to do. Fine, I think this is where we would have gotten to in the end, but there's a process and there's a procedure in place that should be dealt with.
Deputy Mayor, in all fairness, this person starts after you leave office. So it's just,
But I'm still here till January 1st, and I still,
I understand that. And it was in your packet, which you received on Thursday
Friday,
and Friday.
5
okay?
o'clock.
I'm
I'm just saying, it was Friday.
No,
5 o'clock.
I'm sorry, but the administration did a great job finding someone in a very quick and tough situation. We only got a couple of weeks' notice. They went out, found a great person to do it at a reasonable price. It's on the agenda, it's here to discuss, but it's just, we need this person. You just heard it as a statute.
Well, we also had an option to go with another person, correct? We had more than one person that we could
You
have.
still do. You still do.
Right.
I think, and I'll just highlight, I think from management standpoint, they saw council and has been trying to help coordinate the search for the future individual, but in the meantime, wanted to get someone teed up on a temporary basis who, one, has experience, and two, is actually licensed, has the licensure from or the certificate from the state for this. So it kind of like met both criteria, not only in experience, you have the certificate, municipal CFO experience, just cover in the interim period, and that's what management was trying to.
But I'm
present
saying
to
we
council.
had another person that had the same qualifications. Why I'm saying this, there's only a few positions that are actually hired by council. And this is one of those positions that are hired by council.
And council really has the opportunity
I'm gonna put you
to
guys-
change that the following month if they want, but
We have two council members that are heading up the search to find the CFO, that I have full faith in, that Councilman Yeager and Councilwoman Baldwin are heading up that search committee, and that they are doing that process to hire the CFO.
I also want to point out interim. I think we also had hired somebody with an interim, and we never got to go out, interview, and hire in the past. So that's where I also have concerns that somebody's interim, and then they're automatically going to go into full-time without going through the process of interviewing and advertising for the job.
city's already advertised for the job, I think.
But we're putting this person in the position without having her resume. I mean, her resume never came across my emails. I'm just saying, there's a process to be transparent, and this process wasn't followed.
Can I just ask a few questions as a person who will be joining, so I'm clear on what the process is? This position reports to council, or does it report to city administration?
It's ultimately a council appointment, but
Okay.
CFO works is under the umbrella of the
Okay,
city
of the city manager, okay. And for interview processes for a full-time position, whether it would be this interim person or not, is that something that's done jointly by council? Or I understand that Lorraine and Mr. Yeager, Ms. Baldwin and Mr. Yeager are going to be leading some of the effort, but would this be an inclusive council decision?
In the past, it was always done by complete council.
I'm asking for, I want to know for future.
That's, my understanding is that's absolutely the plan.
Okay, all right,
I think just two council members.
I just want to, I think Zach, Mayor Mullick stated something, and I actually thought it was best to clarify it. He said they were leading the effort to hire someone, and I wanted to make sure
No,
it was publicly corrected.
absolutely.
I think that you didn't mean to say
No,
that,
no.
Zach, which is why I
No,
was trying to.
meant that
They're taking the lead on it. No, I was
So
trying to, I was
just
trying
so
to
the-
make sure it wasn't
right.
perceived as being.
Just so the public
Yes,
understands
yes,
what we're
yeah,
talking about.
yeah. That's all.
is
First
Council
pass at
ha-
the resumes, and that's it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that the public wasn't under a different impression.
Council has to hire the CFO. That's one of our rules. And the first thing that happens is you get all these applications that come in. We have to set a process for council. Now, you all probably know, we can't meet as a majority, so we can't meet 3 people. So even just to start the handshake for the person who has applied, we need a process. So that process is these two, Lorraine and Mike, reach out to that person, get a feel for very minor, are you really interested, or was this just a Indeed application that you're sending to everybody? Are you willing to live in Cape May? Okay, fine. Qualified person who may want to be in town or around town. Then we have an executive session where all of the council will be there to interview those candidates. So we have to weed people out, to be blunt, but
I just want to say, in the past, when we hired our city manager, we had gotten resumes, and each council person went through the resumes and picked the top 3, and then we had a closed session, and from there, as a group, we decided on who we wanted to interview. This is nice, but you're only allowing 2 council people to decide who you're going to interview, and I think it really should be, as a whole council, deciding on who you want to interview.
Yeah, but all of the resumes are going out to everyone. So, yeah, it's really just the weeding out process, but
okay.
thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do I have any other questions? Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan,
Abstain?
Councilmember Yeager,
Yes.
Mayor Mullick.
Yes.
Next, we have 296-12-2022, resolution authorizing a contract for professional services to Leon P. Costello, CPA, RMA, for year-end closing and account reconciliation services.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on this one?
Yes, I pulled this off the consent agenda. I just would like to have clarification. No, I believe it's only for account reconciliation. I brought up the fact that Leon Costello is our auditor and wanted to make sure that the public understands that there's no conflict of interest. Somebody who's going to be working on our books is going to be auditing. So if I could have that clarification.
Sure, and these were put in order on purpose, just because the interim CFO, the temporary CFO, will be performing in a limited capacity. They won't be here 9 to 5 like our current position. So in order to kind of supplement and support that role, city management spoke with our current auditing professional to see the limits that they could professionally sort of help supplement some of those items and make sure the city was, conducting business and keeping the lights on, essentially. So I don't know if Manager Belasco wants to chime in.
So this limited role for Leon is basically reconciling our books. The interim CFO works full-time at a neighboring municipality and will need some assistance, and that's a lift that Ford Scott is able to take off of the city's shoulders and make sure that we, in this time of transition, stay above board and keep everything running as smoothly as it has in the past.
Okay. And based on his licensure or things like that, there's no conflict, there's no...
Correct.
That was
He would not-
my
yeah.
biggest concern.
No, he would not jeopardize his RMA in any way.
Okay. Not a conflict, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Millick?
Yes.
Now we have 297-12-2022, resolution authorizing an agreement between the City of Cape May and the Fund for Cape May for 6 Promenade Arches.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Questions or comments?
I think we've already discussed it. so.
Okay, all right. Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
No.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Millick?
Yes.
Next, I think we were on to old business.
I just have one thing for old business. At the last council meeting, there was a bill that I brought up about footings, that the cost was $43,995, where the threshold was $44,000, so it was off by $5. I believe that bill was passed pending a resolution, but I don't see any resolution.
Following that meeting, I spoke with our QPA just to get a sense of, what led to the awarding of that. And there is what's called window contracts in pay-to-play, that's $17,500, but below the bidding threshold, which in this case is around $44,000 because we have a QPA and authorize that by resolution. But that contracts that fall within that window, if they are conducted through competitive quotation, and there's at least 2 quotations, if practical, one falls within that, you're able to award that through the QPA. If the process were to be, look, we know it's a window contract, but we want to invite open bidding, like you were talking about earlier, get as many proposals as possible, and you did essentially the bidding process that you would do on ones that are required to be bid, well, then that would have to come back to council through resolution. But because it fell onto a window contract, that was something that...
So what if his cost goes up over the $44,000? Because I think I read it out at the last meeting, and I would have bought the book if I realized this at the time, that one of the statements made by Leon, our auditor, is that anything that is close to the threshold should be bought before council for a vote.
And that's a should. And actually, that was my recommendation last meeting, and that was the discussion that I had with the QPA on if there is some bigger items that it would be helpful to have a resolution just to indicate and educate people about the project or the purchase so that there's not any confusion about it.
Didn't we pull that bill separately
We
and
did
vote on
pull
it?
the bill and said we were going to vote on it, but they were, under the condition there was going to be a resolution.
I thought we voted on it and.
It was voted on and
the guy's been
approved.
paid.
It was voted on and approved, and I think this was kind of wrapped into the Arches discussion, so I think that's why you ended up with one resolution, which references that, by the way. It references the discussion and the vote of the foundation, voting to authorize that.
I think when everybody else voted, they were under the impression that there was going to be a resolution coming forth for you to vote on, the resolution.
And we voted on the resolution tonight for the agreement with the Fund for Cape May, but we voted on specifically paying that bill at the last meeting.
Here, I'll just say this very simply. I don't think there's a legal issue with voting on it based on the type of contract that it was and the way that it was conducted through the QPA. But my suggestion is, I think those types of things should be put in a resolution, and it avoids questions.
Yeah, just for clarification, my understanding is that that I had recommended that we pay that bill because the guys did the work already.
Right.
We were going to pay them eventually anyhow. Let's do that. But my understanding is that what we approved tonight, which was for, basically approving the whole
Agreement.
project.
Right.
Yes, was what we were really putting off and voting on. We could have put off that part of it too, but I thought that they'd done the work, they should get paid. So that was my understanding, the way it went.
Mine as well. Okay. Any other old business, council? Any new business, city solicitor?
This is our last meeting of the year. I just wanted to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, enjoy your holidays. I wanted to say to Deputy Mayor, it's been a pleasure working with you over the last 2 years. I appreciate your toughness. You always keep me on my toes as a professional. And I wish you all the best in reentering private life.
Okay. City manager?
Yes, I want to kind of echo what Chris said too. Working with Stacy, at times we didn't always agree on things, but we agree on one thing: it was always look out for the best interests of the people of Cape May, and that's the bottom line. I secondly want to thank Neil Young, our CFO, who is leaving for the 9 years and 3 months he gave to this city. He served it well. He kept us out of trouble. He's a hard worker. He's well respected, and I wish him well. I want to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's to everyone, Happy Hanukkah to my Jewish friends, and may God bless Cape May, and God bless each and every one of you over the holidays. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. City council, Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes, I think you both said it well as far as Deputy Mayor Sheehan. It's been a pleasure working with you. You've been wonderful to work with, good insight. You do have the best interests of Cape May at heart. And good luck to your future. I'll see you around. Just a couple of updates. The bathroom plans over at Taylor Pork Roll, we're still hoping to get that ugly trailer off Beach Drive.
Lorraine, for the people who haven't been here for
Yeah, if
more
you
than
haven't
30
been here.
years,
Yeah, it's
where's
been
the
a,
Taylor Pork Roll?
it's been a, yeah, the portable toilet, or the portable toilets that are out there. But no, we've been working on this project for a while. It's been difficult finding an architect, as well as engineers. The architectural plans are pretty close to being done. They're going to be going to the engineer at this point for the mechanicals. It's going to be tight to be done for this season, but we're hoping. We're still within that time frame. So that's that update. And the existing library, I was part of the task force. I am part of the task force for that. It hasn't been stalled, but what we're working on, and Lou, you've been, real instrumental on that. We were looking at a SurveyMonkey, and then the expense was quite a bit. Found out that we could do it through Microsoft. So I know Casey's looking at it. Doesn't want to probably do it through the holidays because everybody's so busy. So everybody look out for that blast. There's going to be an email blast as well as something on our website. Probably within the next after the new year. Outside of that, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Deputy Mayor?
I just have a quick statement for my last night here. I would like to say thank you to the citizens of Cape May for the opportunity to serve on council. I would also like to thank the employees of the city and the rest of council. It has been an honor to give back to the city I love. I have always put the city's best interests first and made my decisions based on facts and finances. To all current and future members that will serve in this position, I hope you put Cape May above your own agendas. This includes completing financial analysis for projects and following the procedures. You are elected to serve the citizens. You are not here to serve your own agendas. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Yeager?
Well, first to Stacy, I think the city's losing a great asset, and I'm sorry to see that. One thing I can promise is I'll be talking to you a lot and getting input from you on a lot of items here. And I hope that, we can work together in the future. I know you'll be back in some sort of form of public office soon. And I hope to see that, and I would certainly support that. So I'm going to miss you in that respect. I'll still see you, obviously.
I know, you live down the street.
And yes, you live right down the street, and I see you in the mornings. Yeah, I think again, it's been great working with you, and I'm going to miss that. And Merry Christmas to everybody. A great holiday. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Yeager. And I echo all those sentiments, Stacy. You have just done an excellent job representing the community, the citizens, and always having their back no matter what. So I can't say enough. And I know you'll still give us all some advice, I hope. So thank you very much. And also, I do want to echo some of the comments for Neil, our CFO. I wish him the best. Wish him the best at Middle Township. And I also want to just mention the library. We had the little ceremony the other day with the breaking through of the wall there, and that was just really, really special, really beautiful. But looking forward to a real ribbon cutting and opening the library, which will be a lot of fun. But I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Holidays. So thank you. And with that, we'll open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak? Come on up. Mr. Roush?
Jules Roush, 1010 New York Avenue. I'm here on behalf of the Cape May Taxpayers Association. At our meeting earlier this month, we had a lot of discussion about procedures and the necessary evil of following details in an orderly fashion to come up with a fine end result. Without getting into any of the details at all, I'll just pass them out. But I will say that I talked with the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, and they recommend that the city engineer and the city manager to develop the criteria for formulating a list of procedures to advance an idea into a completed project. In that regard, the Taxpayers Association is putting forth a suggested format. And with that, I'll hand it out to each member. Hope you will take a minute to take a look at what we feel would be an appropriate set of standards to follow when you consider a project, rather than get caught up in the difficulties. A well-thought-out plan, I think, would work much better looking at it down the road. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will join everyone in wishing you a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak this evening?
Just one comment. I have some tough shoes to fill, Stacy, but I'll do my best. Merry Christmas to everyone.
Thank you, Maureen. All right, everyone, have a wonderful evening. Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Time
Motion.
is,
So moved.
what time is it?
8:30.
8:24.
enough though, because the storm's coming. It's like, as long as we don't get that 14 inches like we got last year. Stacy? Stacy, good luck. Thank you.
Sir. Merry Christmas. Going, you too.
I see her Thursday. She is.